are into our final session. That is a session of integration, integrating prayer, vows, community life, and mission in living our charism. It is a journey towards one heart, one life, one mission in the crucified and risen Lord. What happens during this session? It is a gathering of the fruits of our journey, a harmonizing of the 3 previous sessions. It's a movement from ideas to identity. We heard a lot of things. Now we become what we have heard. From understanding to desire, desire to grow, desire to integrate. From reflection to transformation. From knowledge to integration. And then integration is holiness lived concretely. So how we go about today's session is, we begin with the treasure and the cracks. We will see what that is. Then we move on to see why we speak of integration. Further, we see what integration really means. And then the 4 pillars of an integrated heart. Then we see the reality we live, naming our struggles. We know what integration is, but we have our human realities, our struggles. So we need to know, realize those which are there. And where do I experience fragmentation? Integrating these struggles, the Paschal path, which is our way of life, and how we can grow towards integration practical ways. Finally, we have few reflective questions and then the conclusion. So that is the session plan. Now we enter into our session today. So this is the symbol of the day for our integration. We carry this treasure in cracked clay vessels. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 7. Let us come to this moment, sisters, as we truly are. Tired, maybe peaceful, hopeful or anxious, full or empty. Christ comes to us not in perfection, but in our truth. Let us allow him to look at us with kindness. We carry this treasure in clay vessels, earthen vessels, fragile, imperfect, cracked, sometimes broken, and yet these very cracks are where Christ's love passes through. This session is not about performing better, but it is about receiving the grace to live more wholeheartedly. We are not here to hide our cracks, our brokenness. We are here because the cracks are the place where God enters through. And the place is where the Paschal mystery becomes real. Let us take a moment of silence and whisper in our hearts, Lord, here I am, with my treasure and with my cracks. Okay, now we proceed to our second point. That is why we speak of integration today. Why do we need to integrate? Because we live in a world that pulls us in many directions. There are a lot of expectations, community dynamics, exhaustion, responsibilities, personal wounds, uncertainty, our apostolate pressures from apostolate, community life, changing realities, and the rapid pace of life. Fragmentation is not easy when we are divided, when there are different sides we are pulled to. Focusing is not possible. In such a world, integration is grace. Living as one unified offering, not in fragments. Our charism calls us to live as one single movement of love. The passion, death, and resurrection, it's a one single movement of love. Our day-to-day life is that. As daughters of the cross, we are called to live not in pieces, but as one unified offering. A life where prayer, vows, community life, and mission are not four separate chapters. We finish our prayer in the chapel, live our life in the community, and we are separate, we are different in our apostolate. They are not different compartments, different chapters, but one single movement of love. This is the grace of our charism. This is the dream of our foundress, Blessed Mary Therese. This is the call of the Daughters of the Cross. Now we see what integration really means. We saw why it is essential. Now we see what is integration. What does that mean? Integration is not perfection. Doesn't mean that an integrated person will be a perfect person, flawless person. Everything flows through perfectly in her life. It is not managing life efficiently. I'm able to manage my life efficiently. Therefore, I'm an integrated person. No. But integration is one heart, one way of loving, shaped by the Paschal mystery. The same love that I experience at the contemplation in the chapel will be the same love that I share in my community. That is the same love with which I live my vows. And that's the same love with which I live my apostolate. It is holiness. Integration is holiness expressed concretely. How is it expressed in relationships? In the decisions and choices that we make, the service, and in our daily life. That's where we see the integration is happening. The integration, we see the humility of poverty, the tenderness of chastity, the freedom of obedience, the compassion of mission, the rootedness of prayer. So they are not separate areas, but one way of loving. Now we proceed to see these four aspects, the four pillars of an integrated heart, which we spoke about. They can also be compared to four strings of a violin. How integration happens is when prayer shapes our vows, when vows shapes our community, when community shapes our mission, and when mission brings us back to prayer. So that is how an integrated heart needs to be. Our life becomes one living yes. So it is like that, the four strings of a violin: prayer, vows, community life, and mission are like various strings of a violin. Each string plays its own note, but when tuned and played together, they produce one beautiful song. The daughter of the cross is that instrument of God. You are an instrument of God, the same instrument, that violin, which produces one beautiful song. When you're able to tune in all these four aspects into one single reality. Now we see these four aspects separately. Before that, we said a daughter of the cross, an integrated person with all these four aspects. So what does a daughter of the cross look like when prayer, vows, community life, and mission flow together as one? A person who lives all that, it is able to, prayer is able to flow to the vows, to the community, to the mission, and then back to the prayer. What would be our life like? Or what does a fully integrated daughter of the cross look like in her behavior, in her attitudes? Where do I desire to grow so that my life becomes this portrait, this integrated portrait? Now we move on to prayer. The first string or the first pillar, prayer life, that is the root of our identity. Remain in my love. So prayer is the root of our identity. Prayer is not an activity. It is not a routine. It is not various devotions. It is not saying prayers. It is a relationship that shapes who we become. So prayer has to change us to a person whom we want to become. We said already, spirituality is to become like Jesus. So prayer should enable us to grow to be like him. So it is not an activity like what we do, our exercise, or cooking, teaching, nursing. Whatever we do, it is not just an activity, it is a relationship that shapes who we become. We have been praying for years. How has it helped me to grow in my relationship with the Lord, to become the person I am, to be like him, to grow? Is there a growth happening? Or am I remaining the same person? If so, it is just a mere activity. If there is no growth happening in me. So prayer is a relationship that shapes who we become. It is the inner posture that allows every part of life to draw from the same source. See, if the posture has to be correct, if we sit in the correct posture, we will keep, otherwise we will have our pains and aches. Or when we do not have right posture in eating or sleeping, we will have difficulties. So to have a right posture is important physically. What is the inner posture that allows every part of life to draw from the same source? The posture which is open, generous, self-giving, forgiving, generous, that posture allows every part of life to draw the strength from that. So prayer is a posture. Prayer becomes a breath for our mission. It's like a breath. What happens to us without having air to breathe? So prayer becomes a breath for our mission. So otherwise we said yesterday mission is just an activity. So it is a breath. So prayer is essential in our mission. It is the gentleness in our words. Prayer is gentleness in our words. Prayer is the strength in our surrender. We need strength to surrender. It is not easy to let go and surrender. So prayer is the strength that it gives us the strength to surrender. It is the peace beneath our struggles. Prayer gives us calmness, a peaceful atmosphere when we go through various challenges and struggles. In prayer, we discover who we are, whose we are, and why we are sent. We realize, we discover who we are. We are the child of God. We are a daughter of the cross. We belong to the Lord. Whose we are we belonging to the world? If my attitudes, my behaviors are such, surely I belong to the world. So whose I will, prayer will help me to see whose I am, whose we are, and why we are sent. It's essential to ask, why am I here? Who am I? Without prayer, everything collapses into activism, which we saw yesterday. And with prayer, mission becomes a grace. So, sisters, prayer does not remove the cross. We may say, I have been praying, but the cross still remains. The challenge, the struggle still remains. The problems I have been praying for still remain. Prayer does not remove the cross. It gives the cross meaning, purpose. Now we move on to the vowed life. It is the shape of love. My grace is sufficient for you. That is the quotation I have chosen for this. Because living vows, we have our challenges, our struggles. Our vows are not restrictions, but paths to detachment and freedom, shaping our heart into women who carry the cross with freedom and joy. So it is not restricting us. Our vow of poverty, obedience, and chastity, these are not something restricting us, but it gives us freedom. It shapes our hearts. It shapes us to be women who carry the cross with freedom and joy. What is poverty? It frees us to trust God. It frees us to share generously and live simply. It frees us from acquiring things, having possessions. It frees us from owning things, but allows us to receive what we have given up, sisters, and what we have received. Let us reflect and see. We have given up. We do not own. We do not own one house as our brother or sister, but we have many houses. A daughter of the cross lives poverty as freedom from ego, to let go. God is my treasure, and allowing God to take over. Chastity, it frees our hearts from attachments. It limits our freedom attachments. So it frees our hearts from attachments so that our love can reach all, undivided heart. It frees us from exclusiveness and expands our capacity to love. So it frees us from exclusiveness to exclusively love one person or the other, one family. But it helps us to expand our capacity to love so many people, the whole universe. I remember when we were novices, Sister Emilia taught us, explained to us the meaning of chastity by saying, see, it is not that it is restricting our love. We will not be able to have a married life, having one family. But what, through the vow of chastity, what we are doing is we are removing the hinges of our hearts. We remove the hinges. Once the hinges are not there, the door won't be there. The door of the heart is removed so that it is open to all. So a daughter of the cross lives a compassionate presence to all. That is what our vow of chastity does. Now, obedience. Obedience frees us to seek God's will, listen to God's invitations. It frees us from self-will and personal plans and opens us to God's will. Seeking God's will, listening to God. A daughter of the cross lives her obedience in her humble listening to God and others. So this is what our vows are about. Our vowed life becomes the inner shape of our charism. The outer shape of our charism, we see what is that in loving and serving? The weakest and most suffering, our service. Our inner shape of the charism is our vows. Now we move to our community life. That is the third pillar. The first was prayer life, second vowed life. Now we see what our community life is. The first field of mission. Our mission field we understand as our apostolic field, where whatever we do. But our first field of mission is our community. Bear with one another in love. Sisters, community is not simply a place where we live. Community is where we learn to belong to God and one another. Not perfectly, surely not perfectly. We are human beings, but faithfully. Integration begins at home. It is where our charism becomes flesh. Community is the workshop where we practice the compassion we preach. This is the workshop where we practice that. Community is the workshop where love becomes real. Community is where our charism becomes visible before it becomes a ministry. It is where cross is lived most tangibly. We understand from our lives. Forgiveness offered in secret. Very many times we tell one another, I'm sorry. Or we ask forgiveness, or we forgive each other. It's a place where gentleness under pressure, even under pressure, we become gentle to one another. Patience in difference. We have different perceptions, perspectives, but we try to understand each other and become patient towards the differences. Compassion for one another's fragility. It may be irritating, it may be a difficult day after day. We may have to deal with such maybe difficult persons. But compassion for the weakness of the other. That is what happens in the community. That's what we are called to. Hope in each other's becoming. Each one is growing. Each one is becoming. She has not become. I have not become what I need to become. So hope in the others, each other's becoming. She is growing. She will grow. Even when we do not see any signs of growth, to believe she will grow or she is growing. That is what we need to do in our community. Mother Marita has understood well. The first cross is the community, and the first resurrection also happens in the community. So a daughter of the cross who lives integration in community build bridges, not walls. Practices tenderness and truth. Forgives quickly and begin again. She brings hope where there is discouragement. She supports the weak with gentleness. Community is where our charism becomes visible. Now we see the fourth pillar, the fourth string, that is the mission. God's compassion in action. He has sent me to bring good news to the poor. Mission is not what we do. We understand mission is, what is the mission? The mission is what I do. No. It is what God does through us. So we need to love God. We need to be open. We need to be aware. We need to seek what God wants. It is what God does through us. Then only it becomes mission. Otherwise, it becomes an activity. It becomes a job. But when God does through us, it becomes a mission. It is the overflow of the first three pillars. Mission flows from our prayer, vows, community life. From all these three, it is an overflow to our mission. So we want to work most of our time in a day we spend in our mission. But if it is an overflow from the three, are we giving sufficient importance to the three? Our life of prayer, living our vowed life, poverty, chastity and obedience, living our community life, then only something to overflow. It has to be full. When our life is unified, prayer, vows, community life, and mission, they are unified. If the other three unified, the mission becomes a gift, not a burden. We think, oh my God, I have today after day, I have to do this. It is becoming a burden, so hard, so difficult. But if we base ourselves on the three, if they are united, if there is a harmonious relationship between all four, then what happens? It is a gift, not a burden. It is a witness. In the mission, I witness to the compassionate love of God. And not a performance. I perform. I do things so that people will say how good I am. So it is a witness and not a performance. It is a presence, not an activity. It's a compassion flowing from the cross. Mission is the sacrament of God's tenderness. Yesterday we saw that. It's a sacrament of God's tenderness. And sisters, every ministry becomes a small Bethlehem and a small Golgotha. Places where love becomes flesh. God's love becomes flesh at Bethlehem. Also, God shows his love in a very special way, most striking way at Golgotha. So every ministry becomes a small Golgotha and a Bethlehem. A daughter of the cross who is integrated will serve with the humility, joy, and attentiveness. She sees the suffering Christ in every person. She allows interruptions to become invitations. Interruptions from what I have been planning, what I have been thinking, my ideas. When there are interruptions, I consider that an invitation. She keeps Christ at the center, not the results of my actions. Offers healing presence more than solutions. Sometimes there are no answers, but Mary, who had no answers to many of her questions, she had her compassionate presence at the foot of the cross. She was present with Jesus, having a lot of questions. She speaks the language of the cross. An integrated person speaks the language of the cross. Compassion, forgiveness, courage, gentleness, self-giving. Her mission is not merely a task. As we said, it is a sacrament of God's tenderness. So sisters, now we saw why we need to integrate, the meaning of integration. Then we saw the 4 pillars that need to be integrated, the 4 strings in a violin that need to be integrated. We know now what we are supposed to be doing, but we also need to realize the reality in which we live. That is the fragility, the cracked pot we spoke about. A daughter of the cross who is a woman who prays with her wounds. Nobody is perfect. We have our woundedness, our hurts, our pains. Who prays with her wounds, who serves with humility, joy, and attentiveness, we saw. Sees the suffering Christ in every person, allows the interruptions to become invitations, and keeps Christ at the center, forgives quickly, hopes stubbornly when there is nothing to hope for, still she hopes, speaks the language of the cross. So we have seen this, and then we see now the reality, naming our struggles, why we are not able to integrate easily, because there is a reality which we are living in. So now we see the reality, we are naming these realities or these struggles, not to judge ourselves, but to let God meet us where we are fragile. It is not to say, I'm so bad, I'm so good, I am good for nothing, not for that, but to see God is meeting us where we are fragile, to realize. So first we will see the reality of religious life today. That's something general. Aging communities, fewer vocations, heavier workloads, so a lot of works, many communities, many apostolates, loneliness, cultural shifts among the young, digital overstimulation, addiction to digital media, exhaustion, discouragement, unresolved hurts, and sometimes loss of joy. These are realities that we live with. Most of our communities, when we look, we see sisters are aging and number of young sisters are fewer. As a result, the work becomes heavier. And in the presence of everybody in the community, there are tendency to feel loneliness. In the earlier days, there were a lot of times being together. Today, we spend a lot of time with our work, with our mobile. How much time I can live without looking at my mobile and spend time with the sisters or with the people around. And in spite of using it all the time, still there are times when we feel loneliness, the unresolved hurts, the discouragement. So these are realities that we see, we face in our religious life, okay, common. We hold the treasure of our vocation, the treasure of our charism, the treasure of Jesus himself, the treasure of our life in community, and our 4 pillars we spoke about. But we feel cracks, we feel weak. And yet integration begins here. Where we resist most is where God desires to heal the most. Where we think we don't want anybody to know this, anybody to see this, anyone to enter this. That is the place, that is the area what God wants us to heal most. Where the cross presses the hardest is where resurrection waits quietly. The area where I feel my cross too heavy, that is the place where resurrection is waiting quietly. So now we move to the other areas of reality, the struggles that we go through, the 4 pillars. our struggles in prayer, these are things which it is part of us, we go through. Sometimes prayer feels like a place of peace. We experience God. There is joy. There is some calmness that we experience. We are touched by God's presence. But other times, it feels like an empty room, dry. Nothing happens. What are some of the common struggles in prayer? We show up, but our hearts remain busy. Sometimes we may be people who are very faithful to our prayer life. Regularly we are there, but our hearts remain busy. We are busy planning for the day, what we would be doing in our mission, planning for the life in community, or thinking of the past, nurturing my wounds, my hurts. So our hearts remain busy. Sometimes what happens, we sit in silence, but we want to run away. I want to enter into silence, but I don't feel comfortable there. I feel like running away. Sometimes dryness that lasts for months and years. I come day after day before the Lord, nothing happens. I make all the efforts, but nothing happens. The fear of silence. Routine. Prayer becomes a routine for me. My superior will ask, someone will notice, so I need to be there. Or it has become part of our community exercise. Morning prayer, evening prayer, mass, personal prayer. It has become a routine to me and it has become meaningless. Praying out of duty, not desire. It is not that I desire to meet the Lord. I desire to build my relationship. I desire to get energy and strength. There is no desire. Feeling nothing during my prayer. Avoiding God in busyness. My mission is there. Too many expectations from my mission, my community. But I have no time. I'm responsible for these activities. So I have no time to pray. I spend my time in my mission, my work, but not in prayer. Carrying pain and not knowing what to do with it. Sisters, the ability, the grace to pray is God's gift. But from our part, discipline and faithfulness is our role. To be faithful to the Lord, to have that discipline, the Lord will reward us. The Lord will heal us. The Lord will look upon us. Let us see what are the struggles we go through in our vows. The vow of poverty. We live in a world which constantly whispers, you are incomplete without more. You need to have more. You need to have the best. That is what the world says. That's what we see everywhere. But yet the vows ask us to say, God is enough. He's my treasure. This is painful. We feel the pull of comfort. I want to have the best. I want to have the most comfortable thing. The difficulty in living simplicity in a consumeristic world. We find difficult to live a simple life because people say this is the best thing to use. And if you use, you become like this. If you have this, you would be happy. That's the message the world gives. So difficulty in living a simple life. We compare what others have. She's able to do this. She has this. She has been there. I don't have. I cannot. I have not been. So we keep constantly comparing. We get attached to small securities, small possessions. We find difficult to let go. We struggle to let go of our personal preferences, our own choices. our own ideas, attitudes, habits. So these are some of the struggles. Poverty and chastity. We see chastity is not closing our hearts. As I said, it is taking off the hinges of the doors of the heart. It's a heart free to love many. But on certain days, what happens to us? We feel deeply lonely. We long for emotional intimacy. We feel to be loved, to be cared for, to be understood. We feel difficulty maintaining healthy boundaries sometimes. We know who we are, what we are supposed to be doing, how far we can go, but yet there are times I find difficult maintaining healthy boundaries. We fear being misunderstood. We hide our need for affection. We feel unlovable. I'm good for nothing. Or unseen. I'm not noticed. I'm not approved, acknowledged, recognized. I have the desire to be understood, held, valued. So these are some of the struggles in the vow of chastity. In obedience, let's see what happens in obedience. Obedience asks us to trust God through human mediators, through our superiors, through one another. We say God speaks through others. But this requires humility and vulnerability to let go of what I think, to accept somebody else's view, to listen to. Because we want control, we want authority, we want to possess, we resist decisions. If someone already decided and telling us to do it, we resist, but we are involved in the decision making. We are asked, our opinions are asked, then we accept it better. We feel our gifts are unnoticed. We fear surrendering our will. It's hard to surrender my will. We struggle with transparency. I struggle between personal desire and community mission. I feel that like doing this. But the community mission demands this from me, expects this from me. There is a struggle. There is a fear of surrendering control, to let go. What are the struggles living in community? The place we live is also the place we are purified. Community difficulties, the fatigue that makes simple tasks feel heavy. Maybe they are very simple, ordinary little things to do, but maybe because of the tiredness or because of it is at the end of the day, simple tasks make feel heavy. Small misunderstandings that grow into silent distance. Personality differences that clash. We have different perspectives. Each one is different. So there are differences that clash. Jealousy. The desire to be appreciated. Old wounds that resurface. Maybe I am hurt in the past and presently that person says something, but I associate my thoughts, my feeling goes back to the past. I get hurt, it resurfaces, it comes on the surface again. I feel hurt again. Not really because what she said, but I associate with something else and I think she is responsible for that. The fear of being truly known. They will know if they know who I really am. That fear of being truly known. The pain of giving something not acknowledged. To let go, to forgive. The challenge of loving someone who does not love us back. If the person does not love me, the person I feel doesn't care for me, and still Loving that person, the challenge of loving that person. Community is not meant to be perfect, but it is a place to grow. Holiness is not the absence of tension. Holiness is the presence of love within the tension. Now we see the struggles we go through in our mission. Mission purifies our motives. Overwork and pressure, a lot of work, overworked activism instead of presence. Discouragement when results are small. I feel discouraged when nothing happens. I put in a lot of effort, but the result, no change has happened. No growth is taking place. So I feel discouraged. Fewer members, heavier responsibilities. Feeling ineffective. My work doesn't seem to be effective. People do not seem to like it. Emotional burned out, physical burned out. I feel tired and burned out. Emotionally also. Seeing so much suffering that our hearts become numb. I see sufferings, injustice, failures, weaknesses everywhere. And I don't know what to do. I feel helpless. Temptation to withdraw or isolate. I feel like withdrawing, to be quiet by myself, not being part of the community. Desire to be in control in mission. Desire to be praised. Desire to be acknowledged. So, sisters, these are some of the challenges, the realities of the persons we are. With these realities there in our hearts and minds, we are trying to integrate our life. Now let us see, where do I experience fragmentation, which we spoke about. That's why we need this integration. Where do I experience fragmentation? This again, you will have to see where you really truly experience. You have to reflect before God and see where you are. Is it when prayer does not touch attitudes? Is that your fragmented area? I keep praying. I spend a lot of times, a lot of prayers day after day, but my attitudes do not change. I remain the same. Is that what is happening to me? Or when vows remain words, not inner freedom. I practice the vows. I say poverty, chastity, obedience. This is what I understand I do, but I have no inner freedom. When community is lived in tolerance, what to do? I have no choice but to live. I tolerate that rather than tenderness, love, and compassion. Is that my fragmentation? Is that where I experience? When mission consumes rather than inspires, mission burns me out. It takes all my energy out. But it is not giving me joy. It is not inspiring. It is not bringing me back to prayer. And that cycle is not happening. The mission take me to prayer and prayer to the vows and the community. And then back to that it is not inspiring me. Mission is not inspiring me. When wounds remain unhealed, my hurt feelings, my brokenness, my crosses, my failures, my misunderstandings, the judgments people have of me, when they remain unhealed, I am fragmented. When fatigue becomes my daily companion, I'm tired physically, but I do nothing about it day after day, so I am not able to give my best. When silence disappears in my life, I am fully occupied myself. Morning, I am in the community, and then to my apostolate, I return in the evening. I am busy with communications, my mobile, my chats, friends or families, calls, messages, videos. My mind is fully occupied. There is no silence. There is no time to reflect. So, where will that integration take place? How will I know what happened to me during the day? Where I experienced God, where I gave God, where I failed, where I want to improve. When individualism enters, what matters to me is my comfort, my joy, what satisfies me, what gives me what I want. I need to have. Everything should be the way I think. All must think the way I think. Nobody else exists for me. Individualism, my privacy, my private time, my personal time. When that happens, sisters, no integration possible. When hope slowly fades, when I have no hope, I am disappointed all the time, discouraged when there is no hope. I find only negativities around me, negativities. What I speak, also that. What I hear is that. What I see is that. I become a negative person, discouraged person. When cross is seen as a burden rather than love, my challenges and struggles are seen, my God, what a cross I have to carry. Little misunderstanding or failures or whatever happens, I find them as crosses too heavy for me to carry. Rather than they are signs of love where I can join my Lord. My attachments can keep me away from being an integrated person. Attachment to place, persons, things. Sisters, let us remember God sees all this, all our failures, all our fragilities, all our weaknesses, not with the disappointment, but with the deep compassion. He looks at us. He has still hope these struggles. We are called to integrate with all these weaknesses. So how can we integrate these struggles? The Paschal path, that is the path of the daughters of the cross. Integration is not a removal of struggle. It is the transformation of struggles into grace. Struggles will be there, but I will be able to see the grace in that struggle. See the Lord present in that struggle. Here we show how grace enters, enters the cracks. For the daughters of the cross, the Paschal mystery is not a theme. It is not a liturgical theme that happens the Holy Thursday onwards. Special days for us, daughters of the cross, no? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Good Friday, the Triduum we talk about. It is not a theme. It is not a liturgical season. But it is the air that we breathe. The daughters of the cross, every moment of our life, there is passion, death, and resurrection. Every breath is the breathing in and breathing out, the death and the rising. It is the air that we breathe for us, the daughters of the cross. Sisters, when we live that, every surrender becomes a small death. Small surrender. I surrender my will, my idea, my desire. A little surrender becomes a small death. Every forgiveness becomes a small resurrection. Every act of compassion becomes a sign of new life. I smiled at somebody when she was sad. I reached out my help to somebody who was struggling to complete her work. It's a sign of resurrection, new life. Every painful truth becomes a doorway to freedom. Every obedience, which is difficult, becomes a let it be. Let it be. The Lord accepted. If that is your will, Father, I accept it. Every act of fidelity, our faithfulness to little things, becomes a flame of hope. So see how we can live our Paschal mystery, how we can integrate these struggles, the struggle to surrender, the struggle to forgive, struggle to be kind, the struggle to obey, the struggle to be faithful. So how we can overcome them the Paschal way. We allow Christ to gather our scattered desires, our divided heart, our fragile motivations. Our motivations are there, desire to grow is there, but they are very weak. Our wounded relationships, our fatigued mission, our broken selves. This is the Paschal movement that happens inside us every moment. Integration does not happen when life becomes easier, but when the cross becomes our center. When the cross becomes our center, integration really happens. Our thought flows from the cross, the experience of love that we have of the cross. And that is the center from which our thoughts, our attitudes, our behavior takes shape. Then integration happens automatically. Now, sisters, we see some of the practical ways we can do the integration. Return daily to the center, the cross. So your day begins and ends reflecting on the cross, coming back to the Lord. Harmonize the strings of the violin. If we do not harmonize the strings, the music will not be good to listen to. The tune will not be, it need to be tuned. Let prayer shape decisions. Not let our will shape what I want, I do. No, let the prayer shape our decisions. Practice small deaths, small resurrections in our day-to-day life, little ways. Strengthen the spiritual atmosphere in community. Speak truth in charity. Talk charitably. Speak positively as far as possible. Forgive easily. Protect each other's dignity. We would not want our sister's name to be spoiled among the people whom she has not lived with, the community where she has not lived yet. So protect each other's dignity. Be tender towards the weak, especially the weak physically, emotionally, spiritually, whichever way the weak. Support each other in their struggle. Live the Eucharist, which we are blessed to have every day. We become what we receive. We receive the Lord, and we become the Lord who broke himself, who gave himself. During the day, we become. Let every day become a day where we live the Eucharist. And then we walk with Mary, Mary who is at the foot of the cross. Mary integrates everything. Silence and action, pain and hope, cross and resurrection. Let us spend time with Mary, who will teach us to integrate. Now, sisters, we come to the final questions or reflections. So before that, we just would see once again the sign of integration. If we are an integrated person, how would we see? We already spoke, but you will notice integration when you no longer feel divided between prayer, life, and mission. You act from peace, not pressure. I work out of pressure, tension. Always I'm tensed, pressurized. But if I am integrated, I'll be working from the act from peace, not pressure. Your actions are gentler. You have experienced the love of the Lord, so you become gentle. You can hold others' pain with more compassion. Prayer becomes naturally in moments of struggle. Instead of hopelessness, instead of discouragement and disappointment, prayer becomes natural to us. You feel connected to the spirit of Mother Mary Therese. And finally, you see Jesus in daily life, not only in chapel. These are some of the signs of an integrated person. Now we go to the reflection, sisters. Some of the points to reflect personally. Where is my life integrated? And where is it fragmented, divided? How do prayer, vows, community, life, and mission shape one another in me? Is it shaping myself, or are they all compartmentalized? What is the crack Jesus wants to touch today? Which attitude blocks the flow of grace in my daily life? Which attitude of mine blocks the flow of grace in my life? And finally, what is one practical step I will take to grow in integration? So now we see some few points for the communities to reflect. How can our community live greater harmony between prayer and mission? We spend a lot of time together in prayer and in mission. But how can we harmonize? How can we have a flow from one to the other? What supports the integration of our vowed life, prayer life, and apostolate? What will support us in the community to integrate this? Where do we need healing, forgiveness, and renewal? Which aspects of our life in the community needs healing, forgiveness, and renewal? It could be in our life, mission, anywhere. And finally, how can we help one another become true daughters of the cross? We know now who, as a daughter of the cross, called to be. How can we help each other to become that? How can I become, and how can I help others to become? So now we conclude with the conclusion of the whole thing that we have done. We are going forth. So, dear sisters, our charism is not an idea to admire. We hear that our charism is so beautiful, so rich. We hear it is not an idea to admire. It is a fire to carry within us. Our spirituality is not a devotion to practice. So many practices, but it is a way of living, a way of loving, a way of seeing life, seeing each other, seeing the reality. Therefore, sisters, integration is not optional. It is not our choice. We have no choice. Should we need to be integrated or not? It's not optional. It is our credibility in the world. If we are religious, people know that we are people, they expect us to be people of prayer, people of God whom we believe. Therefore, that prayer should be seen in our life, in our relationship. The attitudes, the language of the cross, the DNA which we spoke of, that has to be seen in our world. So then only we become credible people, credible religious, credible daughters of the cross. So integration is not an optional. It is our credibility in the world. We are clay, we are weak, we are fragile, but we carry fire within us. The fire of love comes from the cross. We are fragile, but we carry Christ. It is not we do, but Christ does through us. We are tired, but we carry compassion. We are wounded, but we carry healing. I love Christ to gather your scattered hearts into a single movement of love. Sisters, let us go forth as daughters of the cross, women who stand where others walk away, women who carry tenderness into the hardest places, women whose very presence whispers, love is stronger than fear, hope is stronger than despair, the cross is stronger than death. Let our lives become one unified yes. Yes to God's love. Yes to God's mission. Yes to God's people. Yes to God's dream to be fulfilled in our lives. And may every crack in our life become a window through which God's light shines. So, sisters, with this, I complete here. We come to the end of our session. So, thank you, sisters. It has been a good experience journeying with you, preparing these sessions, sharing with you has also been very enriching and then a growing experience for me. So thank you so much. And I hope and I pray that we take time individually and as communities to reflect on these charism, spirituality, the relationship, and how we integrate, and then to take something from this so that God may be able to work in and through us, and we become the people whom God wants us to become.